Mediterranean cooking. Today we'll talk about rice. Rice is very important for Mediterranean diet, and it has been a very important issue also socially. A lot of women had their first jobs working in the rice fields, and they were seasonal workers. They were called le mondine, the people who cleaned out the rice fields when they flooded of water. The rice workers were starting to work from April until July, and it was a job that started in the late 1800s and finished about the late 60s, 1960 or so. But why was it so important? It was one of the first jobs where women could be independent and earn their own money. Although they earned very, very little, and very little compared to men, still they were able to leave their families, go to work by themselves in many groups of women for a couple of months, and then coming back with a wage and with a big bag of rice. Also, they were the first feminists, and they were the first people to try and raise up riots within their workplace. But now, let's see the improvements that we made in the garden. Now is the time of white flower flowering. As you can see, the jasmine flower is blooming, my white rose is blooming, and the blackberry flower is blooming. So, white flowers, as you can see, attract many bees and many pollinating insects. They smell more than colored flowers, and that's why they attract a lot of bees. This is very important to have in your garden because when bees come, they also pollinate all your vegetable flowers. I show you. Here there is a jasmine flower, and beside it the tomato plant, which has its flowers now on, which will become our fruit. If we don't have our white flowers, the bees won't come and they won't pollinate our plant. Also, as you can see, my peppers are growing and my green beans are becoming really tall, and also my cucumber. Next time we see each other, I will be planting them in the ground. But let's get into the kitchen. Comes in many types: long grain, short grain, brown, black, and red. I don't have any red one because I couldn't find it, but I will show you maybe in one of the other episodes we will see. The best way to cook rice is just to boil it into water. But in Italy we have a special way to cook it, and it's called risotto. There's not only one type of risotto, there's many types. And today we are going to see 4 types. We will make risotto allo zafferano or alla milanese from Milan, asparagus risotto with black rice. Oh, they look like ants. We will make porcini mushroom risotto, and we will make risotto with radicchio and red wine. But let's start from the basics. For your basic risotto, you need, of course, rice, salt, oil, and broth. This is for your base. But then afterwards, we will add some more ingredients. Let's behead some onions. A non-stick pan, a circle of olive oil, and we put our onions to do the soffritto. the right measure for rice? 1 glass like this is for 2 people. When your onions are nice and brown, we drop in our rice and we hear it sizzle. I love this type of rice. It is called pearl rice. It's from our region. It's nice and little, but still it is very, very tasty. Now, little by little, we add our broth. Both chicken or meat broth, but it's best to use vegetable broth. You can make it with 1 tomato, 1 piece of celery and 1 onion, and you let it boil with a drop of olive oil. When it's ready, you can use it to cook your risotto. Now let's add our pinch of salt. Make sure it's coarse sea salt. You must guard it. You can never turn your eyes away from it because risotto is a real. The minute you take your eyes away from it, it could be burnt or overcooked. Almost ready. As you can see, now our risotto is ready. You can season it by putting on some Parmesan cheese. And this is called risotto alla parmigiana. Don't do this if you're vegan, eh? If you want to change city and go from Parma to Milan, you just have to add saffron. What is saffron? Saffron is a very, very expensive spice. Ta-da! It comes from the crocus flower and it flowers from October to November. So if you have crocus's buds, it's time to plant them now. It comes both in buds or in powder. It comes in buds when it is in season, so in October, November. Now we have it in a powder. It is like gold. As you can see, just a little bit of this magic powder turns everything yellow. People used to use it also as a dye for clothes. And now we discover the ingredients for our second risotto. Risotto with asparagus. Now, as I said before, we are going to try and use some different rice. For this type of risotto, which is nice and green, we will use the black rice, the Venus rice, riso venere, which is a very special one. We take our glass and we measure our rice for 2 people. We will need to open our white wine because we will not use broth in this risotto, but we will use white wine instead. Nice! Now, we won't use an onion for this risotto but we will use a leek because asparagus are very delicate, and that is why we need a more delicate flavor. And now, with the asparagus, off with their heads. We only need for the risotto this part of the asparagus. But please do not throw the legs away, as we call them, because you can add them into your vegetable broth when you make it for another risotto. Now we add in the rice. And then we offer him a little wine. One glass for the rice and 1 glass for the chef. Chin. Before the whole water has absorbed, don't forget to put in your coarse sea salt. Our rice is nearly done, so now let's sprinkle some Parmesan cheese on top. Remember, don't do that if you're vegan, but if you're vegan, you can crush some walnuts inside of it, so you can have some protein. Tasty! We are now ready for our third risotto. This risotto is a recipe of my grandmother. It's very, very simple. My grandmother was a very hard worker, and what she could find in nature, she would bring home. So these are porcini mushrooms. They are dry, but you can find them in the woods. Make sure that when you go and pick mushrooms, that you go with an expert, in order not to be sick or have hallucinations or even worse, sudden death. I have put some of the dry mushrooms into some lukewarm water to revive them, to get them to come back from the dead. So now, what we do, we filter their own water that they have released. Now, as you can see, the color is very strong. This is their own broth that we will use for the risotto. We start with a circle of olive oil in the pot. We sprinkle in some dry onions, dry mushrooms and dry onions, just a little bit, because mushrooms are really, really tasty. I have chosen some brown rice for this recipe. Once the oil is nice and hot, we drop it in. Now we filter the mushrooms broth into the rice, and we wait until the rice has absorbed it. Now that it's nearly done, we add the mushrooms. Nearly ready. I like to garnish this risotto with 2 big pieces of Parmesan cheese. For the next risotto, our number 4 risotto, we need a special type of rice. You can use either arborio or carnaroli. I prefer carnaroli. They are both really expensive rices for really expensive people. I call this risotto Risotto Violetto Violetto. It means the purple risotto. Radicchio, which comes either long or spherical, releases its nice purple color into the rice. And this is why we use the white rice, the carnaroli rice, so we can show its color. As usual, we need our circle of olive oil, and now we throw in the carnaroli rice until it releases all its starch. We keep 2 nice leaves of our radicchio to garnish it in the end. And we start by chopping it. We throw in our radicchio and we cover it with red wine. One glass for the risotto and 1 glass for our camera operator. A pinch of sea salt, as usual, and now we let it simmer. When the rice will have absorbed all the wine, if it's still hard, we will add some water. Today we have learned 4 very simple risotto recipes. Now, if you want, you can change the ingredients and invent some risottos by yourself. The important thing is that you follow the method. Now that our risottos are ready, let's never forget the hard work of women in the past times. See you next time for another episode of Easy Mediterranean Cooking. Arrivederci!